Okay, so here's my Outrage 22. There's some modifications we made over the winter this year. You can see here we have the whole new gauge panel. We put all these new switches built into it. So all these switches are illuminated when they're on. I cut the hole in the starboard using a router. I bought a pre-made panel. I just used that as my template and kind of discarded the pre-made panel. We have the Garmin GPS, and then we have we got rid of the stereo system and put in a JBL Charge. Stereo system was just way too bulky. It drained the battery when we were drifting, and this just is much easier. When we go up on the beach, we can take the radio with us. I also put in some spreader lights in the T-top. You can see here's the fore spreader light right there, and we have one in the aft. Both are independently switched. Sorry about the sun here. Here's the aft. Both are independently switched. Also, this winter we changed the canvas up here on the T-top. I went with the black canvas over blue and white. Black to me just matches the boat. Some guys were saying it would give me a lot of heat. I haven't experienced that yet. I can't understand how black top would really add much heat under it in an open boat. Maybe if you were on Venus or something, I don't know. All right, what else we got? So we got all the new teak on the console. So all the doors and drawer faces are original. These are pretty difficult to rebuild. The router bits I'd have to buy to do this are pretty expensive, and it's a pain in the butt building the slats, all the tenons that they fit into. So I opted just to strip those, and I rebuilt the frames and the drip caps. I attached these from inside the console, so there's no exposed fasteners, and the drip caps are screwed in from back, and they're also glued with a waterproof glue. It's actually difficult to glue teak. These teak frames are made with Festool dominoes in there, and they're all epoxied as opposed to glued. We got our new cup holders. So these cup holders are made for golf carts. They're nice, they're insulated, and they have little pockets so you can put your cell phone, or maybe a car key or something like that with it. The kids always have shit. They want to store like sunglasses or whatever, so they can put them in their cup holders. Here's the face of the console. Move the radio a little bit, moved it over here, so the handset hangs up over there. Move the ignition here. I originally wanted the ignition more over here, but the problem is the ignition has a pretty big unit that sits behind it, the ignition pieces, and the way this I guess it's called the binnacle works, it's got a pretty big section that hangs down, so couldn't really do that. For the face, this is completely rebuilt. Again, all the teak is new. I rebuilt these tracks, got some aluminum door tracks, rebuilt this. I got some felt to put it in the runners. You can see, operates nice. These things, I thought I'd have to latch them, and I've taken some pretty big waves so far, and these things do not move. And they also don't jump out of the tracks. It's actually hard to get them in. You have to really push them deep in there, but I haven't taken a wave yet that's knocked these things loose. Inside the console, might be difficult to see because it's all black. I rebuilt this whole shelf, and I left my key here for the Jeep, and it's on this non-sticky. I left it here when I left it's on this non-skid. When I left the marina, I had left the key here. Came out the little cruise, the key has not moved. See this non-skid? Let's see if I can get it up. It's kind of a pain to get it sometimes. This non-skid pulls up, and you can see underneath it there's the marine ply. I used marrante. There's the marine ply underneath it, and I painted it with an outdoor paint. And this is just a non-skid that woodworkers use for keeping their workpieces secure on a workbench when you're sanding them. On the inside, the whole console was rebuilt using starboard, and it was covered the shelf component was covered in, it was rebuilt using, the whole console was rebuilt using plywood. And then I covered the inside of the shelf in starboard. Over on this side, you can see I put a little outlet in for USBs. I got 2 USB outlets there. I think they're 2.5 amp each. I didn't get 5 amp each. I didn't think I needed to charge that much on the boat. And then I built this little chase here so all the rigging could pass through it. If you ever see what where I had in these things originally, it was kind of messed. It was just like a little pass through in the rickety shelf, and the wires were always like just in the way. So I decided to do this. I put my battery switches back in there so they're kind of dry. They're in the console. They're located just above the batteries, and I think it looks pretty nice and finished in there. Here's the drawer. So the factory drawer just sat it basically just sat inside the console on these like little runners. I rebuilt the drawer. The drawer is built using starboard, and the drawer face is the original drawer face. Not too happy with the workmanship on it, but I was kind of in a rush when I was finishing this piece up, so I'll have to fix some of this next year. The key point with it though is that it sits on some stainless steel, all stainless ball bearing runners, so that it slides nice and easy. And then the other important thing is I have these 10-pound latches, so it's 10 pounds of pull force each, and these keep the drawer closed and in place. And I haven't experienced a wave yet that's thrown these off. These latches, you can see they fit here. I put these on. I had to shim this out with some starboard here. You can see I didn't have 1/2 inch. I only had a 1/4 inch. So next year I got to replace this. To me, this looks a little sloppy. And this, you can see the sloppy workmanship in here. This will all need to be addressed. This was just because I was in a rush. So you'll see it closes nicely. This is going to be addressed. We're putting a little hanger up here so we can hang this so it doesn't sit in the way. But you can see it closes nice. I can't open it in one hand. I got 2 latches on it, so it's 20 pounds of force. If I try doing it one hand, let me see. Nah, it racks too much. I can't do it. So, so that's the console. Let's see inside the console. So here's the other side. These doors are on the same latches. They're all plastic. I wanted to get something that wasn't metal. It wouldn't rust out, and I couldn't find any good stainless steel catches that weren't super expensive. You can see there's the latch piece of it. So inside the console, it might be hard to see because I don't got a light, but the whole boat was rewired. You can see all the wiring in here. I have some pictures of it. And the batteries are underneath this lid. This lid pulls up. Here's just a little adapter. I gotta move that. Batteries are under here. This battery lid is actually, the piece of plywood for this battery lid is actually the original shelf that was in the console. I decided to reuse it. I ran out of material, but that's covered in that same non-skid. The entire interior of the console was redone. The floor was new piece of marrante plywood, and it was painted. And then I put this rubberized. It's not the same as the non-skid. It's just like a heavy-duty rubber matting over it, and I kind of rebuilt the little pass-through there using that rubber. The console still needs to be cleaned up a bit. We're just throwing our life jackets in there. The life jackets are actually going to move to the fore locker once I put the netting in to hold them in place. But this lid, it's not on hinges or anything. It just sits in place, and it uses these same latches to kind of hold it down. I pull it out, but I need 2 hands, and I don't like messing with the batteries when I'm running. You can see this is right behind the battery switch I showed on the inside. So I built this little starboard cover. Workmanship here isn't too great. I need to address that, but I was in a bit of a rush to get this thing splashed, and it was kind of the best I can do in the amount of time. I didn't have time to break out the router bits and start changing routers and router bits and everything, so I was just like, let me just do it and just go with it. So that's the inside of the console. I don't think there's anything else in there. Let's see what else we did on the boat this year. So this boat used to have the batteries. They used to be here in the stern, and it was a bit of a mess. They'd basically sit like right in this area here. They kind of stuck out. We had all this rigging, so you can see here, this is where the rigging was for the port engine. It had a little pass-through over here built, and you just had wires, fuel lines, everything sitting here in the deck. It was a little messy looking, and also it just made the boat look cluttered. And you know, you had your battery switches here, you had your fuel filter, and everything back there. It just didn't look nice. It had a commercial look to it, which I wasn't so happy about. So I decided to redo all this rigging, move the batteries. You know, they're for the static trim of the boat. Because I have twin 4-strokes on this thing, it's actually better to get that weight to the console. So got 2 batteries in the console, got a whole sheet of marrante plywood in the console tool. It gave me about an extra inch of freeboard back here in the stern. So no battery switches. We got a swim platform that's at my house right now. It's got to go on. I got to haul the boat to do that. I'm not looking forward to that, so that's why it's not on yet. And the nice thing now is the kids are going to be able to go in and out of the boat much easier than climbing over the side or climbing up the engines, which we never liked them doing. In the stern here, the hatch for the fish well, I stripped that using Semco cleaner, and it was all sealed using Semco. It's holding up nice. Let's look at the rigging. So the rigging right now really isn't dressed nice. I have these like Velcro type strap thingies that are gonna tubing that's gonna go over it. I got that on order. I'm kind of excited to see how it's gonna look on the boat. But that'll cover everything else nicely. It's meant for hydraulic lines, so it's basically a special sleeving they put on hydraulic lines in case they rupture. It's like a heavy-duty, bendable wire sleeve, and it'll go down back into here. So here's this little aft well. This was rebuilt using starboard. I just put 2 screws to hold that piece in place. This pops up now because the amount of rigging I have for the twins. This was like the best solution I could come up with. I don't like the look of it. Maybe when that dressing is all on here, the sleevings on here might look a little better. Kind of the best I could come up with. But what I don't mind about it so much is that it's kind of in an area boat where we kind of have all this mechanical stuff. So I got this ring buoy here for 2 reasons. Number one, you're required by law to have a flotation device like this on the boat here in the US. A lot of people use those like little pillow throws. We have one. We had one. We used to use it when we had a tea bag up on a tea top. I didn't like the cluttered look of that though, so I got rid of that. So I have this here now. So this serves the function for the U.S. Coast Guard having this on the boat, but also too, it kind of hides my fuel filters. So I added the dual fuel filters. I didn't add the fuel filters, but I moved them back over here. I made this little mounting block that some other electrical components sit behind. You can kind of see it's back there. This thing too was a bit of a rush, matching the angles of the boat and kind of cutting these angles and everything was a bit of a pain. And that was kind of towards the end, so I was rushing. So the fit and finish of it isn't what I wasn't what I was expecting, but I'm kind of happy with it. This serves as a good prototype if I want to rebuild it. But yeah, so there's the ring buoy. It mounts on the navigation light here in the stern. I think it looks kind of nice. We're actually looking for somebody to letter it with our home port here in Kachag. So I think that's everything here in the stern that was done. The gunnels, they were stripped. These gunnels at one point in time, believe it or not, were actually painted with that deck paint, not deck stain. Or was that deck stain that people use that almost looks like a paint? It was painted like a beige color. The previous owner had stripped it and then had it oiled, and I would strip it and oil it. But the problem with the oil is it just builds up that, like, everything sticks to it, and it's constant maintenance. So what I did was I stripped this all using Semco cleaner and sealer, cleaner, the 2-part cleaner. Took about a whole day. It was a lot of scrubbing, a lot of work. I took all this hardware had come off. So that was all the same thing as the center console. This is all sealed then using Semco. And if you don't know Semco, you should take a look at it if you have teak. It's real nice because you can get different shades of it. This is just natural, but when water hits it, it beads up. The water doesn't soak into the wood anymore, which means you don't have anything. You don't have any dirt, pollen, whatever, soaking into the wood to grow bacteria that cause that blackness in the teak. On this side, I added this rod holder here. I was thinking about getting one for both sides. I got one here first to see if it would work. But because of the fuel lines on the other side, I don't think it'll work. It's okay though, because the main reason for this is for our paddle boards. I'm going to have a paddle board rack that's going to mount in both of these rod holders, fabricated. It'll basically be a piece of pipe that comes up and then bends around, has a U to it, and then the paddle boards will sit kind of just off the side of the boat. It kind of fits the lifestyle how we use this. We bring the boat to a lot of different channels and beaches out here on Long Island, and we anchor, and then a lot of times we'll take a swim or something off the boat, or throw the waterman out. This year we wanted to be able to explore more, so we got some paddle boards. The paddle boards will hang off the side of the boat. I'm hoping my clam rake can also fit in it. So whenever we go clamming, the big issue is you have this kind of a dangerous clam rake with these big metal tines sticking out of it on the boat. I usually just lash it down to the gunwale here, but it takes 15 minutes to tie it all down. So it'd be nice to have something to put that in. I think that's it for this section of the boat. I strap my knives up here for when we go fishing. They just sit here on the T-top. Here's the other side of the boat. These are not original. These cleats. The previous owner put these in. These slide up so that they slide down out of the way, so that when you're fishing, one thing I hate when I'm fishing is anything in the way. I don't like anything being in the way. I mean, I know I got the stern light over there, but that's I think that's by law. And I got the engines, right? But I don't like it when anything is obstructing. If you got something like this sticking up, you come down with a line, you can catch on this. Everything's nice and tidy here. Let me pull this fender in. So that's it for after the boat. Up here in the stern, nothing's really changed. The whole boat actually needs to be detailed. The interior has not been detailed yet. The one big change I did make up here in the stern was, and then the bow, is we have this bow locker. Now this boat originally started as a cuddy cabin, so this was an Outrage 22 cuddy, and you can see here, you got all these holes that were filled using 5200, and what happened was, so the cuddy was right here. You can see where the cuddy mounted. It also mounted this rub rail was put in to hide all the holes from where that cuddy screwed into. But because it was a cuddy, it didn't have hatches. These hatches were like basically inside the cabin, right? So I think there was a small head, and so this isn't a normal Outrage configuration up here. So the previous owner had these starboard hatches fabricated, which I don't love the fact that they're not original, but they're functionally they're fine. So I put a pump in this bow locker. Now anybody who has one of these boats, well, it might not happen to you because you probably have the right hatch covers, but whenever it rains, that hatch fills up with water, and the only way for me to bail it was either to get out and pull the plug, and the plug is way under there. I'd show it, but I got my T-top cover in there right now. You can see, but basically the plug is all the way back here under the cooler, so you have to be a contortionist to get in there. And especially when the boat's running, it's kind of dangerous. So I put a small 1,100 gallon pump in there, and I put a really small pump for one reason, is that in order to get from this bow locker somewhere in the hull that I can throw over the sides, I basically have to remove that deck plate. And to remove that deck plate, I got to remove the T-top and the console, and I wasn't going to do that this year. So what I did was I did a little experiment. I tried to figure out how quickly water would drain out of here, and I calculated that the 1,100 gallon pump would be fine. So basically that pump pumps into this rope locker here in the bow, and it pumps in and it drains through the through hole, which is always open in these bow lockers. Now this is where we use these for two things. We use these as actually, I think they're rope lockers. So we use these for rope. You see on this side, I got my rope in it. I got some little bucket of fishing weights in it right now. Got to address that situation. But we keep our rope in here. We keep our water shoes and flip flops in here, and we also use it as a garbage pail. So when we're done, like with a bottle of water or something like that, it always goes in here. And now it pumps out through here. So I put this through hole. I had to build this through hole myself. I got 2 through holes. I used some glue and some PVC, and I basically welded them together. So you can kind of see them. I don't know if you see it too well. I can't see the screen right now, but so yeah, so it pumps out in here. Now, the one thing that happens is this thing can actually drain with the pump. So the pump is not out pumping its capacity. But what happens is just because of the, I guess, the force, the dynamics of the water when it comes out of that hole, the way it hits this angle right here actually sends the water up this way. So it's actually kind of funny. Like when I'm pumping, some water actually does come out of here, and it will leak down the boat. But that's not a big deal, because I really only have to pump out this forward hole every once in a while after a rainstorm. It's not a huge deal. It just saves me having to bail it with a bucket for us to use that compartment. Now, this is where the life preservers are going to go. So up in here, I'm gonna. Oh, you can see it actually does have water right now. Right now, I am going to get spare bumpers in there. I'm going to build a little mesh shelf up in there for the life preservers. Actually, let me throw the pump on. Let's see how that works. So here I got my switches here. Throw the forward bilge on, and you'll see it how it comes up. And that's just because of the way the water sprays against the top of the lid there. It's not that thing is filling with water, but it doesn't bug me so much because, see, look, now I'm pumped out, great. And I got my aft bilge, take the rest of it. You know, that's not like something that I'm relying on to keep the boat dry when I'm out at sea. It's just a convenience not having to bail it with the bucket. On this Outrage, again, this was originally a cuddy. This anchor locker here, I don't like this. It's a pain. In order to open this anchor locker, you have to move all the way up here to the bow, reach down, and then open the anchor locker. Whereas in a normal Outrage 22 like this, you'd be able to open the anchor locker in a much more ergonomic way. So I actually have had my eye out for any Outrage 22s, like a hull, like a project boat, that I could salvage those off of and maybe work out a deal with the owner to, maybe swap these panels with that boat. But I haven't come across one yet. That's one thing I would really want to do with this boat, because it's really difficult when we want to anchor. Sometimes I actually have to pull the anchor out. Like, I like to pull the anchor out way ahead of time before we get somewhere, just for that reason. It's not it adds some anxiety sometimes when you're pulling into a beach or a sandbar or whatever, and you want to throw anchor. You have to now remember that, I got to get everything out of the bow, and I have to get up there in the bow and get that hatch open. So it's not so easy. Another thing that needs to be done to this boat, probably do it next year. We need a new cooler. These igloos, these things do not hold ice really well at all, and you don't realize that until you actually buy like a more, one of those roto molded. It doesn't have to be a Yeti. If you buy any roto molded cooler, it'll hold ice for 2 days. This thing holds ice for maybe half the day. When you're out here in the sun, these coolers aren't all that great. So I think that's it. One other thing up here, you might be able to see. I don't know if I want to climb up on the boat. I guess I could. It's calm enough. I added a horn, just for safety purposes, and you're actually required to have a horn on the vessel here in the U.S. I added a small concealed marine horn up here on top of the T-top. I originally wanted to put like a nice like a horn, like a horn-looking horn. I don't know how you refer to those, but you know, a non-air horn, an electric horn up here. But the black ones I found were so expensive, and I didn't want a white one. And the stainless ones I found weren't real stainless. They were like coated in stainless. They weren't like real 316 marine stainless. So I opted for this one. I can always pull it out. This cover I had fabricated at companies down in Florida. I think the company's in Florida, but it was made in Vermont. I had them use this special, I forget what the fabric name is. It's not really that special. They call it a premium fabric, but it's kind of rubberized on one side and canvas on the other. I had them build it upside down with the rubbery side on top and the canvas side on the bottom. And my thought there was two reasons. Number one is I think that the canvas side has a nicer, like, just texture to it that I want to look at. But because it's black, you know, birds are going to go on this. And I thought that this rubbery part would be a lot easier to clean than the canvas part. So I had the rubber put up. Now, I do keep this boat covered. I do keep the T-top covered when not in use. You know, if I'm unwrapping a boat on a Saturday and I know I'm using it Saturday and Sunday, I won't cover it Saturday night. But, you know, if I know it's going 2 or 3 days without being used, I always cover the T-top, and, you know, the antenna there anchors down. So I think that's it. You know, I just got the cup holders up here. And yeah, I think that's the extent of everything I've done. So hey, yeah, so thanks for watching.